So in this video, I'm actually going to be doing my first Dark Souls challenge run, and if you couldn't already tell from the title of the video, it's going to be only using tail weapons. Now, as I was thinking of this challenge and making sure it was possible, a problem I did find is I can't even get my first weapon of the run until I get past the second boss of the game. So it's a challenge, yet I decided that Asylum Demon and the second and Taurus Demon are easy enough to do with no weapon, so I'm doing the run, but I won't be using a weapon for those two bosses. Starting off the run, we make sure we talk to the main man Oscar himself to pick up the Estus flask, which honestly I wouldn't be able to do Asylum Demon without it. As you watch me fight the Tub of Lard or the Lard Demon, I'm just going to explain, clarify some of what I'm considering a tail weapon is and just more of the rules of the run. So, obviously, what I'm considering a tail weapon is a weapon that is dropped when you cut off the tail of an enemy. So, like a dragon's tail, or just mostly boss tails, obviously. And throughout the whole game, there are 8 weapons I'll have available to myself, but 2 of those weapons are in the DLC. So, it makes things a little different. But the 8 weapons I do have available, including the DLC ones, are the Drake Sword, the Dragon Great Sword, Gargoyle Tail Axe, Priscilla's Dagger, the Obsidian Great Sword, the Guardian Tail, the Moonlight Great Sword, and the Dragon King Great Axe. Now, while those are the 8 weapons I will be using, I'm making an exception for one point in the run, which is when I am getting the Drake Sword from the Dragon's Tail on the bridge. I will be allowing myself a bow because I am unsure how possible or how feasible getting the Drake Sword with only my fists would be, because I'm not even too sure if that's possible. And to be honest, with how long it's going to take me just to get up to that point, I'd prefer not to spend possible hours on just getting my first weapon when I can just make a slight rule change and it can be 5 times easier. And finally, with the death of the Blubber Menace, we are that much closer to starting the run. Using the souls we got from the Asylum Demon, we're going to put 2 points into strength and 1 into dexterity. As I make my way to the Taurus Demon, I want to make it clear that I have no weapon for this fight, and as I have nothing usable for me, so I will be going with only my fists. But the difference is I have a cheese, which is kind of simple, as if you can make him backstep at a right position, he'll backstep off of the bridge. So as long as I can pull that off, this fight will still be relatively easy. Out of sheer luck, even though he didn't do the backstep, he didn't attack, which made him fall off the edge. And I'm going to be honest, before this I had died about 7 times, so just getting this fight done with, I was very thankful just to have it done. Once I made it up to the bridge, I started shooting at the tail, and with 1 arrow to spare, I did manage to get the Drake Sword, giving me my first weapon of the whole run, and the weapon I'm going to be using for a while. As I make my way to the gargoyle fights to get my second weapon, I'm not too worried as they're a relatively easier fight, so it really shouldn't be that bad. As expected, the gargoyles went down pretty easily, and I even got the weapon pretty easily as well, so overall it was a really easy fight. And honestly, I think it's just the Drake Sword's so strong this early in the game. Ringing the second bell, I get halfway to getting to Sense Fortress, which will be huge, because once I can beat and get to Ornzine's Mill, I can get the Lord Vessel and then get practically all my weapons in just that region. To be completely honest, the pathway to the Kaber Demon was way harder than the actual boss itself, because honestly, with the Kaber Demon, the only hard part are the 2 dogs that are in the arena with me and the demon. So pretty much it's an easy fight. Like I said, the only problem with this fight was really the dogs, but otherwise I was doing huge damage to the Kaber Demon and it was very easy to dodge his attacks. Knocking off the King of the Drip himself, I get the Ring of Favor and Protection, which gets me one of my rings for my build. The abandoned Big Mouth character himself tries convincing me that he is a crocodile or an alligator or something like that. But unlucky for him and lucky for me, I haven't gone outside in so long, I don't even remember the color of the grass, so there's no way I'd remember what a crocodile or an alligator even looks like. Getting the tail off the gaping dragon was very easy, but I probably won't ever be able to use this weapon because the strength requirement for it is so high, and at that strength there actually is a better weapon to use instead of the axe that I get from this. As much as I dread going in Blighttown, I do have to go here to get my next weapon. This alone almost made me rage quit the run and just uninstall Dark Souls. This dragon skill is actually very important as it will let me upgrade the Drake Sword and do more damage, which is needed. Cutting the tail off the Everlasting Dragon, I get the Dragon Great Sword, which is absolutely amazing. The fight with Quelaag was pretty easy, but I definitely could have made it easier if I decided to either upgrade my weapon or get rid of the curse effect. But either way, Quelaag's just pretty much an easy fight, no matter what run you're doing. I ring the second Bell of Awakening after defeating Quelaag, which also will finally allow me access into Sen's Fortress, leading me to a pretty crucial part of the run, at least from a leveling standpoint. And then after ringing the Bell of Awakening, I finally make my way to get a Purging Stone and get rid of the curse effect to get back to full HP. I also killed Havel for Havel's ring, which will give me my other ring for the build I'm going for. And then finally, to finish my run, I go and run to pick up the Grasslands Shield for the stamina regeneration it will give me. The only reason I'm showing this fight is just to show how bad my weapon is, because like Iron Golem should be an easy fight, but honestly with how bad my weapon is at this point in the game, it's horrible. Regardless about how bad my weapon is, I did manage to kill the Iron Golem. Luckily, right before Ornstein Smo, I did get a better weapon though. I'm showing my death to Ornstein Smo not to show that I'm absolute dog shit at the game, but just to show you the main problem with this weapon and how it kind of annoys me is the weapon's slow. My new weapon's very slow, which makes fights like this very difficult and will make a lot of future fights very difficult as well. I finally kill Smo, which lets me get past Ornstein Smo and get up to the Lord Vessel. I get the Lord Vessel because honestly, I gotta get that at some point. I go back to the Undead Asylum, get the Peculiar Doll, and I also kill the Lard Demon's lost brother, who I think might have ate a little bit more pizza than the Lard Demon. I touch the painting with the Peculiar Doll, and I get sucked into it. But for some reason, my character likes it so much, he starts kicking his feet in joy, and I'm starting to think he might have some kind of painting fetish. I managed to turn the wheel to open the door, but before I can actually go fight Priscilla, and I could go underneath, but I do want to go above and kill the dragon to get another dragon scale to continue to be able to upgrade my weapons and make them even better than they are now. I managed to get Priscilla's dagger relatively easily. I did have to swap weapon, but overall Priscilla's a really easy fight and I didn't really struggle at all, so it wasn't that bad. After killing Priscilla, I reached the edge of a building, and I'm not even gonna lie, the words I've heard in the TikTok comment sections telling me to kill myself might have gotten into my Dark Souls character, as almost immediately they threw themselves off the edge. I upgrade my Dragon's Greatsword, making it even stronger, and then I enter the mouth of some sort of snake cosplayer whose teeth rival one of a British citizen. And luckily I didn't catch anything, but when I put a bowl on, like, what I'm assuming is, I'm not actually sure what that is, but when I put the bowl on it, light comes out of it, and I get a little bit scared because I think it's the sun, and I haven't seen the sun in a while, so it does shock me quite a bit. Before I fight Seath, I show Drip Souls off in its finest moment with my dressed in Silver's Knight helmet. Seath was annoyingly hard. I never struggle with Seath, but trying to get the Moonlight Greatsword, I was in genuine, like, anger. I've never struggled with Seath, not a single moment of any one of my runs, but trying to get the Moonlight Greatsword awoke in some kind of rage in me. And you know what, I'm gonna be honest, I'm just not gonna get it. I completely avoided the weapon because I was getting so mad I was gonna quit the run because of this, and this is like barely any of the deaths I had, but I was getting unbelievably pissed off at Seath. Fighting Seath made me realize a +1 Estus Flask won't cut it anymore, so I kill the Firekeeper in Orlando and get a +2 Estus Flask. I ran back to Seath's little library to kill the Crystal Golem to get the pendant, so I am able to enter the DLC, but once I get to the Black Blob, some hand like herpes or something reaches out and tries to molest me in more than one way, which I'm not very happy with, I'm going to be honest. Shortly after entering the DLC, I fight the first boss, getting myself its weapon, which honestly is a pretty easy fight. But right after this is Arttorious. This fight I knew would be horrible, and I probably died upwards of like 40 times. I'll probably have a rough estimate on the screen, on the win screen, but boy, this fight was rough, and I'm just showing you like some of the deaths. Like, this isn't even scraping the amount of deaths I had. And the worst thing is, this isn't even going to be my hardest boss, as you'll see shortly. Manus is going to be so much more of a problem for me to deal with. The DLC just, I don't know if it's my weapon, if I didn't do something, like I didn't level up my health enough, or I'm just that bad, but this was a nightmare for me. I finally beat Arttorious, and I did think this would be the hardest fight of this whole run, but much to my dismay, it was not. It just wasn't. Before we fight any more of the DLC's bosses, we make a stop, and we see why the living legend himself had to get nerfed, and I think it's safe to say he has a good KD. Now I have to prepare myself for, I don't know, this might have been the worst boss of this run, but partly because I actually haven't really played through the DLC up until this run, because I didn't realize I had it. But you know, yeah, it wasn't really fun. You can obviously see that by like, I don't even know, like the 50-ish seconds of deaths I have. It's like, it's probably not gonna be 50 seconds, but it's unreal. It's just death after death after death. And I finally beat Manus, and you can just hear how happy I am to have finally beaten him.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Next up is Kamme, and I'm gonna be honest, you can see that from the deaths here. I really only died, a couple times, so it was relatively an easier fight. we entered my least favorite area, the catacombs, and after the DLC, and I did just realize I haven't beaten Pinwheel, so we'll go beat him real quick, and finally make my way to Neato, and probably do alright. He's not too hard of a boss. As I expected, Neato honestly wasn't all that difficult. The only real difficulty from him came from the skeletons, which isn't only the difficulty from him though, but it was definitely annoying. Died about 3-4 times, but it was relatively an easy fight, but it is a good one. Right after Neato, we're gonna make my way and deal with the Ceaseless Discharge real quick. It's a real easy fight, but it'll lower the lava for us, and now we can make our way towards one of the other Lord Souls and really deal with the boss. I don't think anyone ever in the history of this game is ever looking forward to. But while we are going there, we do get one of the best bonfires in the game just because of how nice it is to have. And yeah, I mean, this boss was kind of annoying. I only died about 5 times, which honestly isn't horrible due to the walk being short, but it's just so annoying. Before we can continue, we have to open the door and let the water out. I mean, I don't know who put all that water there or how they put all that water there, but now their work is gone, and I don't really feel that bad. Now we make it to the very end of our boss rush near the end of the game, or I guess second to end, and we go deal with the 4 kings. Now, I do actually quite enjoy this fight. It's not too complicated, it's pretty simple, but I do think it's a really cool concept. And I mean, in past runs I've had really interesting encounters, so it takes me a while for sure. I mean, I mean, with my output of damage isn't necessarily crazy, so it takes me a second, but I beat it first attempt. It's not really that hard of a fight, but it is one I do enjoy quite a bit. And now we are able to go challenge Gwyn, who I will be trying to go without parrying for a little bit. But quick spoiler warning, at the very end I do end up starting to parry him because I was getting a little annoyed. Finally, we reach the very end of our run and face up against Gwyn, who, I'm not gonna lie, for the first while I did attempt to go in no parrying, and you'll see how the deaths I had. But I do end up going to parry just because, like, I think it's more of a skill issue, but I was starting to struggle big time not trying to parry him. I got close a couple times, but I never really beat him. And I had already been going on this run for a decent bit, so yeah, I decided just to allow myself to parry Gwyn and just get this fight over with, get this run done with, and yeah, just call it quits. With Gwyn down, it is safe to say that you are able to beat Dark Souls using only tail weapons, and honestly, other than the DLC, it's not very hard to do at all. I mean, I'm sure you can make it hard, but without the DLC, that was very easy.